much for joining us here on NewsX. Well, a pleasure to have you on the program. We now move over to North America, where the US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order providing some tariff exemptions to trading partners who enter into an agreement with the US regarding industrial export of nickel, gold, chemicals and other metals. Over 45 categories have been identified by Trump for exemption on reciprocal tariffs. The order further stated that the exempted products are divided into 4 categories, such as generic pharma and their ingredients, unavailable natural resource and closely related derivative products. Trump also stated that his willingness to reduce tariffs would depend on several factors, including the scope and economic value of trading partners' commitments to US in agreement on reciprocal tariffs. This executive order may open a new door of further tariff negotiations. We are now joined by Peter Cardillo. He is a chief market economist at Spartan Capital Securities, and he joins us live from New York, the United States. Peter, thank you very much for always joining us on the program. Peter, what is your interpretation of this executive order? Why is it so important for the United States, and how will it affect the trade and current negotiations in tariffs?
Well, I think it's a start that perhaps things are going to break down in terms of the harsh tariffs that were imposed on some of the countries, and these exemptions means that perhaps the tariff theory, or I should say agenda, is beginning to weakening. And I think the reason for that is twofold. One, because here in the United States, we're seeing the labor market that has weakened, has basically come to a crawl, an indication that somewhere along the line, the consumers are likely to pull back on spending, and that could mean trouble for the U.S. economy. Another important factor, even though it doesn't necessarily equate to the question that you asked me, is the fact that we're seeing Trump make an about-face with India. He's going out of his way since yesterday to say, the prime minister is my friend. I just don't like some of the things he's doing. And of course, this is important. Why is it important? Well, we've seen that relationship between Modi and Trump suffer to the point where we saw a strength of unity at the SOC conference, referring to Putin, Xi Jinping, and Modi, showing a strong sign of unity. And so I think that's got the United States to think and say, well, look, we need other countries to trade with. They need the United States. They need some of our products as we need some of their products. And so I think this is very important. So when you have an executive order that begins to exempt certain products, I think it's a step forward. And that means sooner or later that there will probably be negotiations with a lot of these countries that have not yet worked out a deal with the United States. And I am convinced that the high tariffs that was slapped on some of the countries such as India, that they will be brought down perhaps towards that 15% level.
Yes, and Peter, these exemptions cover more than 45 different categories, including generics, natural resources and derivative products. Why these sectors, and what does it tell us about US economic priorities?
Well, I think it's a good indication that, that the White House realizes that the economy is not performing the way they want it to perform. And the last thing they want to do, I'm going to go back to this other point, is to weaken the consumer. And with the labor market being weak, obviously, that's a big threat to the U.S. economy. So I think various sectors that are very important for the growth of the economy and also for the workforce, for the job markets. A lot of these sectors obviously include a lot of workers, so you wouldn't want to see more layoffs coming.
Peter Cardillo, thank you very much. Pleasure to talk to you as always. We now move on and over to Europe, where people have paid their respects